Luffy inherited Roger's will, but what if he inherited his blood too? Imagine Luffy born as the son of the Pirate King himself. How different would the story of One Piece become? The world still trembles from the echo of Gol D. Roger's final words, and it ignited the great pirate era. But in this timeline, one thing changed everything, because during his execution, Roger entrusted Garp with his yet-to-be-born son, Monkey D. Luffy. He begged Garp not to let the child suffer for his sins. Bound by honor and guilt, Garp hides the truth from the world and raises the boy as his grandson in a very quiet and humble corner of the East Blue Fuchsia village. Just like the original storyline, everyone thinks of Luffy as just a carefree child with a wild spirit. But beneath that cheerful grin lies the pride of the Pirate King Roger himself. Luffy grows up with Ace, who in this universe is the son of Monkey D. Dragon. The two brothers couldn't be more different because Ace inherits Dragon's revolutionary ideals and sharp mind, while Luffy inherits Roger's craziness and a will that is totally reckless. Together, they train, fight, and even dream under Garp's brutal yet caring eye. But even if Garp is trying to hide everyone, he knows what is coming. He sees Roger's smile reflected in Luffy's laugh and knows that one day, Luffy will surely discover the truth, and history will then repeat itself. Life in Fuchsia Village is mostly peaceful until one day, Shanks' crew arrives. The red-haired pirate instantly senses something similar in Luffy, and it reminds him of his mentor and crew, Gol D. Roger. Shanks treats Luffy like a younger brother, not knowing that he is mentoring his former captain's son. In this timeline, Luffy also becomes quite interested in Shanks and his adventures, the will of freedom, and the open sea. But Garp is right there to pull him back the instant he tries to be reckless. However, one fateful evening, while Shanks and his crew were celebrating at Makino's bar, Luffy accidentally ate the Gomu Gomu no Mi. But this time, something different happened. As his body stretches for the first time, a wave of overpowered spiritual energy also bursts out. This happens because Luffy already showed the signs of Conqueror's haki. The tavern shakes, glasses shatter, and for a split second, even Shanks feels something similar to what he never felt with anyone except Roger and on his adventures. Luffy's potential also terrifies Garp, surprises Shanks, and confuses Luffy himself. Soon after, the incident with the mountain bandits happens, and there, Shanks sacrifices his arm to save Luffy just as before. But this time his words hit harder. He tells Luffy that he's got the same fire as Roger, and if he wants to set sail, he should make it for his own dreams. Once Luffy turned 17, he decided to leave Fuchsia Village. As he was leaving, he kept thinking about the name Gol D. Roger and what kind of man he truly was, though he still doesn't realize that he is the son of the Pirate King himself. The seas of East Blue, once considered the weakest of them all, begin to stir as rumors spread of a boy wearing the same hat as Gol D. Roger. Here, Luffy already looked too much like Roger, and his cap just made things worse for him. Everyone started gossiping that he was Roger's son, but no one could prove it yet. The name alone was enough to unsettle the Marines, bounty hunters, and even veteran pirates. As soon as Luffy began his journey, his actions were identical to the canon timeline, where he was freeing towns, defeating the bad guys, and even recruiting crewmates. However, one thing was not so identical in this scenario, and that was his reputation. It had already whispered in everyone's ears that Luffy indeed was Roger's son. Zoro joins first, thinking about Luffy's origins, and even asks him if he's the son of Roger, but Luffy denies it. But the fire he saw in Luffy's eyes made him believe he was lying. Nami, initially wary of being hunted by the Marines and bounty hunters, learns that Luffy's kindness is not similar to what his name implies and ends up joining. They even went on to fight everyone else, with Usopp and Sanji joining the pirate crew early on as well. But a question lingered in everyone's mind, and that was, is Luffy destined to follow Roger's path or simply be crushed by it? Unlike the original timeline, the Marines acted first here. Vice admirals and bounty hunters were dispatched across the East Blue to intercept our pirates even before they reached the Grand Line. Then came Roger's old rival and a bounty hunter who told Luffy that even though his father died smiling, he would die crying. Luffy, even though he was unsure if Roger was his actual father, took offense and started fighting the bounty hunter swordsman alone. Zoro asked whether he needed their help, but he stopped everyone from interfering. Here, Luffy's first grand match happens when the swordsman with blazing speed gives Luffy some cuts on his face, legs, and arms. However, Luffy counters by using his Gomu Gomu fruit, only to be completely countered by the bounty hunter's speed. As the hunter started mocking him, Luffy's eyes became scared, and he told him to get lost. Suddenly, a burst of haki came, and the swordsman, who was so cocky at first, was completely shattered and passed out. By the time the crew reached Logtown, Luffy's first bounty was already massive, sitting at 100 million berries. Captain Smoker, on the other hand, received personal orders from Marine HQ that he needed to capture Roger's son alive. Logtown suddenly becomes a battlefield, and the moment Luffy sets foot there, he meets the infamous Captain Smoker. Together, the two crews start fighting with everything they have, and Luffy stretches through the city streets and onto the execution platform right where Roger died. Now, Smoker cornered him and felt what his father felt at that very moment. While Smoker was pressured to use his devil fruit, Luffy felt the pressure. He got hit by Smoker to the point where he couldn't move anymore. But something crazy happens here. Monkey D. Dragon, Ace's father in this timeline, comes and saves Luffy. Even Captain Smoker, who is as strong as an ox, gets scared. And after he hears the words "get lost" from Dragon's mouth, everyone leaves. He tells Luffy that his father was none other than the famous Goldie Roger, and that his fate is as cruel as his father's. He also advises Luffy not to be so reckless and to have a proper plan for everything that he wants to do in this life. Luffy smiles at Dragon and says that he will become someone even greater than his father. He turns toward the horizon, the Grand Line, where Luffy is no longer a boy, but the son of Goldie Roger. The pressure is immense, but Luffy's motivation is even greater. Word of Luffy's identity spreads across the seas faster than any ship. The Marines now double the bounty to 200 million since his identity is confirmed. But it isn't just money that motivates his enemies now, it's pride, fear, and vengeance. When the Going Merry crashes into the Grand Line's entrance, the crew is not met only by Laboon and Crocus, but by the shadow of the Baroque Works. In this timeline, Crocodile already knows who Luffy is and sees him as a future threat to his own ambitions. He secretly dispatched some of the most elite assassins called the Dune Division, and they are special killers trained in armament hockey and observation hockey, far stronger than anything the Straw Hats have faced before. First, the battle between Zoro and the assassin called Kurobane happened, who had a scythe coated in black hockey. He intercepts Zoro near Laboon's lighthouse, and his ability includes Sand Reaper style, which allows him to coat his twin scythes with hardened sand that can slice through practically any stone. While Zoro blocks each strike, Kurobane's observation hockey lets him anticipate every movement. For the first time, Zoro realizes he is fighting someone completely out of his league. The two swordsmen fought a long, hard battle, but here, Zoro is not only fighting, but also working toward making his abilities even stronger. So, he learns the three sword style. Asura Mirage focused into an illusion of 3 heads and 6 arms. This overwhelmed Kurobane's predictions, and with one single slash, Zoro cuts through his sides and sends him crashing into the sea. At the final strike, Zoro realizes that his hand is hardening into this weird metal, not knowing what armament hockey truly is. The next battle was between Sanji and Miraja. Miraja had a devil fruit that allowed her to create reflective doubles of herself. She taunts Sanji, appearing and vanishing with blinding speed, and each kick that landed with hockey reinforcement pressured Sanji. After a while, he ignited his flames with an attack called Diablo Jambe. By using his sheer heat and willpower, he turned the battle around, melting the enemy's mirrors and delivering a beautiful flaming kick that destroyed her. Luffy was fighting the Baroque commander Galdino at Whiskey Peak. The bounty hunters prepared a massive ambush, but Crocodile wanted Luffy alive before the Marines could get their hands on him. Galdino, or Mr. 3, takes command here and is enhanced with Candle Hockey, a hardening war armor that is nearly indestructible. Luffy charges first with his fist blazing with steam and fury. As Galdino traps him in wax, Luffy gets angry. Galdino mocks him for being weak, just like his father. However, there's no one to save Luffy this time, and he is alone. Suddenly, something happens to Luffy, where he bursts out with an explosion of hockey that cracks the wax dome apart. Luffy then starts punching Galdino with his bare hands, breaking his armor. With a final blow of Gomu Gomu, no bullet Gatling, he hammers Galdino into the ground, winning the battle easily. On the Grand Line, Luffy and the Straw Hats realize that the enemies here are something they have never faced. These people are stronger, faster, and more advanced. Luffy now stands beneath the night sky, staring at his wanted poster worth 100 million berries. Now, the crew sets sail once more toward Alabasta, where they want to settle it once and for all with none other than Crocodile himself. The Grand Line had already begun to whisper about Luffy and his crew, but when the Straw Hats reached Alabasta, a civil war broke out, tearing the Desert Kingdom apart. This now became the perfect stage for Crocodile to fulfill his crazy ambitions, as now he doesn't want the power of Pluton. He wants history to remember him as the man who killed the Pirate King's son. Crocodile's network of Baroque Works agents has already been upgraded, and now Mr. 1 and Miss Doublefinger command entire units of desert mercenaries. As always, Zoro was the one to go through the battle first against Daz Bones, where both were now using hockey in the desert. Zoro was losing all he could because Daz wielded partial armament hockey, and every clash sent sand flying for miles with Zoro's swords chipping under pressure. The fight reached a climax, and Daz started mocking Zoro about what a weak swordsman he truly was. Those words ignited Zoro's fury, and he then focused all his power into the next strike, realizing that his hand was once again hardened with armament hockey, and he cut his enemy down cleanly. Sanji fought Mr. 2, and it was also very emotional. They traded blows, and Sanji was bruised and battered. In the end, he won by using Ifrit Jump, which sent Bon Clay flying through a marble pillar. Then came the final showdown between Crocodile and Luffy. Crocodile was holding the Poneglyph and the royal tombs underground. Here, the air was dry and suffocating, but Crocodile stood tall, mocking Luffy when he could. Luffy froze with sand beneath him, trembling, and for the first time, he could use Advanced Conqueror's hockey at will. Crocodile staggered as the air wrapped under pressure, and their fight was brutal. Crocodile drains the moisture from the air, but Luffy adapts, soaking his fists in water, turning the sand against him. Every punch that landed on Crocodile was heavier, driven by rage, will, and pain. While Crocodile tried to impale Luffy with his golden hook, Luffy caught it mid-strike, scattering it with sheer hockey. He then delivers a final Gomu Gomu no storm, pummeling Crocodile through the ceiling, sand, and sunlight until the warlord lies broken in the ruins of Alubarna. In the aftermath of this battle, Ace arrives, chasing reports of Blackbeard's betrayal. betrayal. Both brothers finally meet and clash fists, not in battle, but in defiance. They then split under the Alabasta sun. One brother is guided by the Revolutionary Army, while the other carries his father's burden. Next, the journey to Sky Island begins, with not treasure, but a lot of mystery. When the Going Merry soars above the clouds, the crew finds themselves in the world of white seas and golden temples. This is a place that the world government can't reach, and this world still whispers the name Gol D. Roger everywhere. Luffy's reputation quickly reaches the heavens, and the Shandians' elders recognize the straw hat mark from ancient carvings and murmurs. Since Robin was already with him, she discovers something even more interesting than gold. They find a Den Den Mushi logbook sealed in a stone chest. This once belonged to Gol D. Roger, and when she connects it to a poneglyph, the snail's speaker crackles to life, playing a faint recording of Roger's voice. This log also reveals fragments of the truth, mentioning the name of someone called Joy Boy, and Roger explains that this is a man who sought to unite every sea and the popular phrase, the will of D. This revelation, even though it was quite new and sudden to them, gave Luffy a new perspective since he now found his father's dream and why his father and grandfather fought on opposite sides of the same dream. But before he could think more, God himself, Enel, made his entrance. Lightning flashed across the island like divine punishment, and he saw Luffy as an insult to divinity. But since Luffy has a brand new perspective, he is now ready to unleash and move to his next interaction. Nami and Usopp started fighting with Enel's priests, called Shura the Sky Rider and of the Iron Clouds. Shura uses his flaming lance and flying bird Fuza to rain fire from above, while shapes his Iron Cloud sword into shifting barriers. Usopp fought bravely here, firing explosive stars to distract them, while Nami navigated the battlefield with the Waver. In the end, our heroes won since Usopp landed a direct hit with Impact Wool, a new slingshot that creates a shockwave upon contact. Next, Zoro and Wiper fought Enel's lightning guard very quickly. He realized that he could not touch them. Zoro learned the truth about the guard mid-battle and then coated his swords in Haki-infused air pressure, cutting through energy itself and killing the guards. This was a piece of cake for him. Lastly, Luffy fought with Enel, who took Nami away at first. But as soon as Enel's body turned into lightning, he struck Luffy with an attack that would flatten even the strongest admiral. However, to Luffy, the attacks did nothing. The rubber man stood unaffected and destroyed Enel using Gomu Gomu no Golden Rifle, smashing him into the Ark's lightning generator, sending a massive thunderstorm across the sky. As the light faded, Robin placed Roger's logbook beside the golden bell, and the Den Den Mushi played Roger's final message saying, "The world's greatest treasure isn't gold, it's freedom." Luffy smiled through the rain, whispering to himself that he would find this happiness and make it real. The events of the Water 7 saga in this timeline are quite similar to canon. The Straw Hats arrive to repair the ship and soon get caught in the web of betrayal. However, in this timeline, CP9's orders are far more personal than the randomized ones from the original storyline. The Gorosei themselves issued the mission to capture Luffy, or even kill him if necessary, since now he was getting closer to the secrets of One Piece. Luffy became a total threat to them, and at Water 7, the crew learned of Robin's capture by CP9. Robin here was merely bait, because the real target was Luffy. So, Cypher Pole's elite agents, Lucci, Kaku, Khalifa, and Bluno, considered it an honor to bring back the bloodline of the Pirate King. When the Straw Hats stormed through Eni's lobby, the declaration of war against the world government carried even more meaning now. Here, Luffy burned the flag of the government not just for Robin's sake, but for the new generation of pirates. The battles in Eni's lobby happened with amazing intensity. First, Zoro versus Kaku happened, where Kaku unleashed a newly trained form of Rokushiki combined with armament Haki. He sliced the buildings apart with his amazing blades. However, Zoro pushed his Asura form even further, showing traces of Conqueror's coding now, cutting through Kaku's Rankyaku barrage. Their duel ended with amazing sword clashes, but in the end, Zoro won the battle with flying colors. Sanji fought someone as powerful as Jabra alone, and this became a brutal show of speed and pride. Jabra suddenly mocked Luffy's heritage, saying that the sons of pirates were destined to die by the government's hand, and this made Sanji quite mad. So he unleashed his Diablo Jambe with even greater ferocity than ever before. Using his burning kicks, he destroyed Jabra's Tekkai and won the battle. This was a battle that was more than just fighting the opponents randomly. It became highly personal for Sanji. Nami, Chopper, and Frankie, on the other hand, were fighting Kumadori and Fukuru. The trio's teamwork shown here, and in the end, they destroyed the ops, only to realize that Luffy was fighting his toughest battle yet. Yes! This was between Luffy and Rob Lucci now, and this fight became the most symbolic fight in this timeline. Lucy represented the government and was their perfect weapon. He was cold, obedient, and ruthless. As the two clashed, Lucci's overwhelming abilities overpowered Luffy, but their final confrontation is where things got even more interesting. Luffy's Gear 2nd collided with Lucci's Rockwogan in an explosion of raw willpower. But there, Luffy showed his advanced Conqueror's Haki, which burst forth and overwhelmed Lucci entirely. This was a roar of freedom for Luffy. For the first time, Rob Lucci, the man who is known to be unbeatable, was on his knees. When the Straw Hats escaped on the new ship, the world trembled. The Straw Hats' arrival on Thriller Bark felt completely different this time. This time, it wasn't just eerie, but came with an interesting familiarity familiarity. The mist-covered ship island wasn't just a graveyard of shadows, but also showed us Luffy's inner chaos. The rumors of being Roger's son spread across the Grand Line, and this time, they also drew unwanted eyes to every island they visited. From the beginning, the group of zombies carrying Roger's Jolly Roger imitations attacked the Straw Hats. These were trophies stolen from defeated pirate crews who once idolized the Pirate King Mariah. He took an interest in Luffy, calling him the son of the man who ruined his generation. He also planned to use Luffy's shadow to resurrect a monster that was a hybrid, created from the remains of the fallen members of Roger's crew. As the crew fought the undead, Brook made his grand introduction, and his jovial skeleton persona showed the dark past. Brook also revealed that when he was young, his old captain shared drinks with Goldie, Roger's crew, before he rose to infamy. After learning that Luffy was his son, he fell silent and started crying as always. Zoro fought Ryuma, who was Roger's shadow blade. Instead of just being the legendary swordsman, Ryuma's body was infused with the traces of many of Roger's crew's shadows. This gave Ryuma a faint spark of Conqueror's haki. Their duel went on for days, with both slashing swords. In the end, Zoro won with his sheer haki and swordsmanship skills. Ultimately, he got Ryuma's sword, becoming even more popular than he once was. The other Straw Hats were fighting Absalom and Hogback with the help of none other than Brook. Chopper was getting scared, as always, and things were quite intense for them. Finally, Oars awakened, powered by Luffy's shadow. There, the annoying Mariah taunted the crew as Luffy's shadow-infused double kept destroying the island, forcing Luffy to awaken his will again. From there, Luffy's advanced Conqueror's haki flared so violently that dozens of zombies instantly got destroyed, and their shadows started escaping into the air. He even fought Moria, and before you knew it, destroyed the zombie-looking monster. Things were all good, and Brook joined the Straw Hats. Everyone was ready to enjoy a nice feast until a very eerie shadow appeared from the dark. This was Kuma, who came earlier than in the original timeline. Unlike before, Kuma didn't spare the crew easily, but crushed them with overwhelming precision, declaring a calm and chilling message to Luffy. Luffy and Zoro instantly fought Kuma together, only to be toyed with by his techniques. With every touch, either Luffy or Zoro would disappear, ultimately reappearing and getting punched by Kuma. This trick made it nearly impossible for them to fight Kuma. Kuma crushed both Zoro and Luffy, and before vanishing, he told Luffy that the One Piece they were finding was not a treasure. Rather, it was a question that the world government feared being answered. Now, the defeated crew sailed away from Thriller Bark while Luffy stared at the horizon in silence. The son of the Pirate King began to doubt not his strength, but the purpose he had been chasing from day one. After the Straw Hats' Thriller Bark adventure, the world trembled as the unthinkable happened. Ace, the son of the world's most dangerous man, Monkey D. Dragon, was to be executed at Marineford. But there was a hidden motive behind this execution, which was basically to capture Monkey D. Luffy. It was more bait than an actual execution. When Luffy learned about Ace's capture, this news hit him harder than anything. He remembered the promise that they made as kids that no matter what happened, they would always protect each other and become the king of the world. So, Luffy successfully infiltrated Impel Down, which came with a storm itself. The prison guards were prepared for him, but unlike in canon, the Marines brought in special anti-haki restraints just for him. Luffy's will broke through even Sea Stone, and his Conqueror's haki knocked out hordes of guards in mere seconds. There, he allied with Buggy, who idolized Roger, Mr. Tubon Clay, and even his sworn enemy, Crocodile himself. They joined not in friendship, but to witness the son of the Pirate King fall. Jinbe saw something else in Luffy, and also fired forward with him. When Luffy finally burst out of Impel Down with his new mates, the world shook. The Marines saw him as Roger's complete reincarnation. Every admiral, warlord, pirate, and marine felt his presence as his advanced haki rippled across the battlefield like a storm. It was in part due to Whitebeard's earthquake, and even Shanks' distant will. Whitebeard, who once fought beside Roger, saw Luffy for the first time and smiled through the chaos, saying that he had Roger's spirit with a fire that might even burn brighter. The war raged as Sengoku stepped forward, and everyone started fighting. Ace was finally freed with the help of Jinbe, and Luffy was fighting Borsalino with his quick speed. However, there, Mihawk helped him get away and save Ace because everyone was fighting to execute him. Suddenly, Admiral Sakazuki came and attacked Luffy. This was the first attack that he didn't see, but suddenly, just like in the original timeline, Ace was punched through like he was a donut. History repeated itself, and the battlefield fell silent. The bloodline of Dragon died protecting the bloodline of Roger. Luffy screamed, not in grief this time, but in fury, as his haki exploded, shattering the plaza, knocking out half of the Marines and pirates, and even making Sengoku falter. Whitebeard died standing, and Luffy escaped with Jinbe while swearing that he would take his revenge and kill every single one of the Marines. Shanks came later and also stopped the war. After the deadly firestorm of Marineford, the seas fell silent. The great pirate era felt like it died again, first with Roger and now Ace. The world mourned, but no one was angrier and sadder than Luffy himself. He was broken, battered, and scarred beyond recognition. But then, to fix his inner brokenness, he met Silver's Rayleigh, the Dark King who once sailed under Roger's flag. He saw something that even Roger didn't have in Luffy. It was rage fused with purpose. After fighting Luffy and overwhelming him with his haki, Rayleigh earned his respect. They both went to Rusukena Island just like in canon, but the tone of their training was darker, more intense, and much more productive. The first months of this training were brutal as Luffy's body healed, but his spirit and mentality were restless. He kept throwing punches at shadows, screaming at the sky, and collapsing every night from exhaustion. One day, Rayleigh sat opposite him and spoke about Roger. He told Luffy that Roger didn't smile because he accepted death, but because he knew that freedom would come, that no cage, no noose, and no empire could ever destroy it. Luffy clenched his fists and for the first time in a while felt a bit normal. Under Rayleigh's instruction, he learned observation haki, where he could sense the intent of people and predators across the island. Weeks in, he even started hearing their thoughts, and his awareness evolved beyond reaction. On the other hand, Mihawk took Zoro, and everyone else was doing their own thing as well. The Straw Hats were becoming one of the strongest pirate crews in history, and no one even knew. Luffy also learned armament haki, and instead of just hardening his body for defense, he learned how to weaponize it offensively, coating his blood and muscles with his punches to do devastating attacks. His advanced Conqueror's haki also evolved to another level, as he learned to merge both Conqueror's and observation haki. By now, his haki was flaring so violently that every beast on the island bowed or fled. Even Rayleigh grinned and told Luffy that he's become totally different now. A lot happened during the time skip, and the Straw Hats met each other, only to find out that everyone had grown stronger. Wano begins not as a rebellion, but as a revolution. The son of Gol D. Roger, who once dreamed of liberating, came to free everyone. Luffy entered Wano not just to save it, but to declare a new era of pirates. In this arc, he met everyone. The 9 Red Scabbards, Kid, Law, Yamato, and Marco. Each had lost someone to Kaido or to the world he represented. Luffy's new aura also drew them all together, as his will felt like a storm that could not be stopped. The assault began with fire and thunder. Kaido's army of beast pirates fell to the combined might of the Alliance. The Straw Hats each faced their ultimate challenges. Zoro fought King in the biggest battle here. He ultimately defeated him using Conqueror's coating through all 3 swords, ending the fight with Asura, world-severing slash, and ultimately won. Sanji fought Queen, who taunted Sanji about Germa's experiments and the blood of devils. Sanji also fought with all his heart, but in the end, he used his flaming kick that melted metal, ultimately destroying Queen. Of all the Straw Hats, the battle between Kaido and Luffy was the strongest. The two clashed with such power that the skies split open. Kaido's Conqueror's haki and black lightning filled the air, while Luffy countered with his fused, advanced and observation haki. Every strike hurt Kaido as he brought down his dragon form, but the tables turned when he used his hybrid form to dominate Luffy. Kaido kept laughing, and they kept fighting until Luffy fell down once more from the rooftop, unconscious. Kaido was laughing and actually complimenting Luffy, but something changed for the final time, and Kaido knew this was a different person awakening within Luffy. The drums of liberation started running, and this time, Luffy's awakening wasn't laughter, but rage. His body turned white and glowing, with his eyes holding fury, not joy. His Gear 5 Joy Boy mode didn't just symbolize freedom, but rebellion itself. His rubber body became the embodiment of chaos, bending and stretching the air around him. He punched Kaido, destroying his face and breaking his teeth. Kaido used Raimi haki, but Luffy easily caught it mid-swing. Then he sent Kaido flying with a powerful blow. After getting hit by it, Kaido crashed into the ground, forming a crater that split the whole Onigashima apart. Still, Kaido rose with blood dripping, still laughing through his broken teeth. He complimented Luffy again, saying that even though he was his father's son, his aura and fire were much brighter than his. With a final attack, he smashed Kaido to the ground and killed him. This gave birth to a new era in Wano, and Luffy returned to normal. Everyone found out that Luffy had become Joy Boy with his Gear 5, and for the first time in a while, everyone was happy because they had gained a power unlike anything they had seen before. But after winning came the devastating news that Blackbeard had killed Dragon. Luffy heard the news, and instead of breaking down, he had no reaction. Just a stare, a cold and burning aura, and he remembered Ace's final words. Luffy saw his new path as clear as day, and this time, it wasn't toward getting more treasure, but vengeance. After the Straw Hats faced toward the sea, they saw that the world was burning. From Mary Jawaz to Marineford, flames lit the sky like dying stars. Each spark marked the collapse of an empire that had been built for centuries. Monkey D. Luffy was ready to attack the Marines and gain his revenge, but he heard that Blackbeard had struck first. After years of silent manipulation, Teach unleashed the power of 2 awakened devil fruits and tore through the pirate and marine world like a storm. His ultimate move, fruits, and tore through the pirate, infused with the tremors of the Gura Gura no Mi, sank an entire fleet. To make things worse, he killed Sakazuki himself. At this point, the Marines had no fight left. The age of law and order had shattered. The revolutionaries, led by Sabo, marched with the Straw Hat fleet toward Marineford, only to find that Blackbeard had taken over everyone. This time, the last war of the world began. The battlefield was tough as the admirals clashed with everyone. Sabo fought Kizaru. Jinbei held off the remaining pacifistas, and through it all, Blackbeard laughed with his dark powers, swallowing entire divisions of Marines and revolutionaries. Blackbeard even reached Garp and others, and imprisoned them while laughing at Luffy, saying that the world only belonged to him. Finally, the two met, and the ground quivered with Luffy's haki. As the two collided, the sky split open. Each punch from Luffy did almost no damage to Blackbeard, but due to the Gura Gura powers, Luffy was getting affected. This Blackbeard was a completely different breed. But then, after becoming completely overwhelmed by Blackbeard's attack, Luffy unleashed Gear 5. Their final clash sent shockwaves that tore Marineford apart. Buildings collapsed, But there was no victory. Not yet. From the rubble, Sakazuki came back, mortally wounded but still burning. He dragged himself toward the battlefield and for the final time attacked Blackbeard, surprising him with the attack. Luffy saw a changed man in Sakazuki and decided to forgive him. Together they started fighting Blackbeard and his crew. Amidst the battle, something crazy happened. As Blackbeard was laughing and enjoying everything, he was struck by a thunderbolt that fried him. The world burned, and the red line, which was once the unbreakable wall separating the seas, people, and freedom, crumbled under the force of Luffy's final attack on the Marines. Above the clouds came Mary Jawaz, still intact atop the broken red line. The Gorosei appeared for the first time and started kneeling before a single figure descending through the storm. Imu, ruler of the world government, who had existed since the Void Century. The remaining Marine forces, led by Kizaru, Fujitora, and Smoker, stood beside the Revolutionary Army, now knowing that the true enemy wasn't Luffy anymore, but the real tyrants, who were the Gorosei. Luffy charged first with his Gear 5 igniting, but suddenly, someone stopped him. He saw Shanks and Mihawk with their crews on the sides. The red-haired emperor and the world's strongest swordsman united for the first and last time. Behind them, the Straw Hats were there with Zoro and his Enma, Sanji, Jinbei, Nami, Robin, Usopp, and the others. Facing them were the 5 elders and some Marines. Above all of them was Imu, with eyes glowing like the eclipsed sun. Shanks revealed that he was part of the Figureland family and had just come to settle the score with Garling Figureland. The battle began with the first fight between the overpowered Zoro and Saturn. Saturn's monstrous body charged, shaking the ground with his claws, radiating armament haki. Zoro's sword started shaking, but he smirked, with blood already dripping from a previous cut across his cheek. At first, Figureland's power and hits overwhelmed Zoro, but then he used 9 blades flash, with each strike imbued with Conqueror's haki. However, Saturn retaliated, unleashing a blast of haki that destroyed many of Zoro's swords. However, Zoro dug his feet into the ground and crossed his swords, blocking Saturn's attack. Suddenly, he disappeared, and a single slash cut through the air, cutting Saturn into 2 halves while dissolving his body into mist. Sanji and Jinbei started fighting Nusjuro. His flames slashed through the pirates' army at once, but Sanji dodged, disappearing into blue afterimages. Jinbei crashed a tidal wave across the battlefield. Sanji then rocketed forward with Ifrit Jambe and his kicks, creating shockwaves that melted Nusjuro's armor. However, he countered with Gravity Slash, crushing the ground. The battle was hard for our heroes, but in the end, Sanji and Jinbei worked together, with Sanji's kicks moving through the air like a comet, and Jinbei launching Nusjuro up into the sky with a palm strike, driving Sanji's fiery leg through the elder's chest, killing him instantly. Then came the tough battle between Mihawk and Topman Warcurry. Mihawk stepped forward with his black blade, Yoru, gleaming under crimson light. Warcurry was already strong, but now he transformed into a titan of pure muscle. Their clash created hurricanes, even knocking out allies and enemies at the same time. Warcurry crushed the ground with his fists, creating an imbalance for Mihawk, but Mihawk went high, his cape fluttering, and brought him down with a single word: Final Cross Flash. The impact split Warcurry from shoulder to shoulder, killing him silently. However, Mihawk was heavily injured in this mad fight. Robin, Nami, and the other Straw Hats were fighting Mars, whom they finally brought down after hours of work, and Shanks fought Jupiter by cleaving his head clean off, and the serpent's body dissolved into darkness, leaving Shanks standing alone, looking at none other than Imu. As the smoke cleared, Imu came down, and this time he looked like a shadow crowned in light. His powers were strong enough to twist reality, where time slowed and the battlefield itself bent. Mountains started floating in the sky, and the ocean also froze mid-air. Luffy's body strained under pressure, with blood spilling from his mouth, but he laughed, saying that Imu talked too much. With his Gear 5, he dashed forward, but Imu easily blocked every punch with divine energy, countering with a spear of darkness that ripped through Luffy's chest. Heavily injured, Shanks finally caught Luffy before he fell. Their haki surged in harmony, with red and white lightning dancing through the storm, and that's when Imu screamed, summoning a celestial blast from the heavens. However, Luffy and Shanks stormed forward, and Shanks cut through the divine beam with Conqueror's will, while Luffy went through it with a single punch. They both did a combined attack that collided with Imu's core, exploding the skies with a flash of white and red, consuming everything. When the light came, Imu was lying shattered across the ruins, where he was ultimately taken away. For the first time, the Marines and pirates were on the same platform, fighting a single enemy, which they succeeded in doing. Luffy stood on a cliff, looking at the vast ocean with the Straw Hats resting gently in his hand. The crew laughed, had parties, and enjoyed a lot. For the first time, Luffy finally understood the true meaning of One Piece. It was the world becoming free and the laughter happening across the sea. The new age of pirates had just begun, and this wasn't for kings or empires, but ultimately freedom for everyone, whether they were a Marine or a pirate. The inherited will never dies, and the legend of Luffy D. Roger continued living on. Make sure to subscribe and smash the like button for more One Piece videos.